Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everyone is healthy and safe. My name is Ellie Butler. I am Head of Marketing for North America here with IDP Connect. For those of you who may not know us, IDP Connect serves as a gateway for institutions to IDP education, a world leader in international student placement services and digital recruitment solutions. What makes IDP Connect really unique is the depth of data that we have from our online sites, coupled with the global market insights of our vast network. This combined data set is unparalleled in the sector, providing institutions with the critical insights they need to make strategic decisions. In today's session, we'll be showing you how you can harness that data to assist in your planning for spring 2021 recruitment and marketing activities, looking specifically at program level demand today. I'm very pleased to be joined by David Bushy, Director of Client Partnerships and Operations, and Anucha Pramnart, Client Data Analyst here at IDP Connect. This session will be recorded, and if you have any questions, we encourage you to use the question tool, which is located to the right of the main webinar window, and you can use that at any point throughout the webinar, and then we will cover the questions at the end. So without further ado, I will pass over to David.
Thanks, Ellie, and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Just some quick context before we actually move into the topic for today's session, which is going to be looking at program level data. Ellie talked just a little bit about who we are, but I want to put some context to that. So much of the data that you're going to be seeing today comes from the over 100 million web visits that we get per year across our sites. This is derived from or has then led to 3 million unique customers within our platform. And it's sourced through our counseling network of 2,500 counselors in 127 offices, which just this past year alone produced 18,000 applications to the US and placed 33,000 students globally. So we've got some really nice depth to the data that we're going to be sharing with you today and where that comes from. For the purposes of today's conversation, we're going to focus on what we consider to be called our IQ services. And these were recently launched. So for some of you who may not be aware of them, you're more than welcome to reach out to a client manager or to the email that you'll receive after this session. There's really two key components. We've got subscription-based services and we've got some bespoke services. For the purposes of today's session, we're going to focus on the left-hand side of the line that you see going, the vertical line down the screen, which is really going to be looking at a demand tracker tool, which is part of our on-demand services, which includes sector data dashboards, where we pull together some of the open doors data and also intelligence reports. So any of you who may have been on our Crossroads 3 session where we presented on the impact of COVID in terms of student mobility just prior to Thanksgiving, all of that would sit within the subscription-based on-demand. To the right side of the vertical line, you're seeing our bespoke services. These are customizable consultancy type projects that we'd be more than happy to speak with you about and how we can support your institution. In terms of how this data that we're going to be presenting today is different, it's important to know that it's not definitive, and we encourage that you're using the data that we're going to talk about today in tandem with whether it's your own application data or open doors data, whatever it might be that you typically use to work out your strategy. But today's data is really going to be focused on the future. So it's a glimpse. It's taken a glimpse. It's our window into the future in terms of international student mobility. And it's using student search behavior from all over the world. It's real-time data, and so it's constantly being updated. It's top of the funnel, meaning that it's looking at students who are planning their study 1 to 2 years in advance. And it's really its specific purpose is to help your institution be able to make recruitment-based decisions, and that's why we focused today's session on using this data to be able to determine or look at how you can think about how this might impact your spring recruitment. Also important to note that a real benefit of this data is that past performance is typically no guarantee of future results. So using your application data, using your student data, using open doors it's not necessarily indicative of the future. And so this combined with historical data is really a nice approach. For the purpose of today's session, this will be part 3 of our 3-part mini-series, and today is going to be focused on program level demand. So we started off in the beginning on source market. Just before Thanksgiving, we looked at study level demand, and today we're going to finish up with program level demand and talk about how all 3 of these can be used to build your strategy. So with that, I'm going to pass over to Anutra to run us through a live demo of program level demand. On to you, Anutra.
Thank you so much, David. So again, welcome you guys to our part 3 of our mini series. And today we're going to focus on the subject demand. But before we do that, let's just do a quick recap on what we did for the first 2 webinars that we did from 2 or 3 weeks ago. So we did the source market demand and then study level demand. So if you guys recall, for those of you who attended, we can look at the data from the country of origin perspective and see who is looking at the US as a destination country, or even like other destination country like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, or even the UK. And with that being said, it's nice to know like what country is looking at us, or like what city is looking at us. We can even go deeper in terms of like, hey, what cities in India interested in this particular program or this particular subject area. But it's also important for us to understand like the difference between the trends in different study level. So for example, if we use India, we see the trend from India, going up or going down. But we all know that majority of the students who are looking for the programs from India, they are really interested in postgraduate programs. So if you only know the overall trend, it's not going to tell you much, because everything is going to be driven based on the postgrad demand. So when we know the study level, we can just like differentiate like which one you would like to focus on, whether it's undergrad or postgrad, and then you can see the more accurate data that serve your purpose. So we did all those 2, and I just want to show you guys a real quick recap for both study levels. The first one is undergraduate study level. So what we have here is a screenshot from our demand tracker tool. And if you guys remember that we have like multiple filters up here, and what I did here is that I set the start date on January 1st and then end it on November 25th, with the destination country being the US. And then everything else I kind of left the same, except for the study level, where I only focus on undergraduate study level. So what it shows here is that on the left-hand side, we can see what countries are looking for undergraduate program in the US during the given time that I put on there. Like the colors kind of like indicate the search volume, like, the darker the color is, like the higher the volumes are. And on the right hand side here, we have the origin city. So this go by the country, by the city level, which is important to know, because if you work with big country like China or even India, it's good for you to know like what location you should be focusing on that serve your program and serve your study level that you are looking for. So right here we have Jakarta, Istanbul, Sao Paulo, Bangkok, and Lima. And I'm going to do the same thing for graduate study level, where everything stays the same destination country. The only thing that I change here is the study level, which I change it to postgrad. So now you can see India kind of like come back to the picture where the color is getting darker. And in the top 5 cities, we have Istanbul, Bangkok, Sao Paulo, Jakarta, and Lagos. So we can see that I think Bangkok was maybe like number 4th for the undergraduate level, but then for postgrad it shipped up to number 2. So that show the importance of promoting graduate program for the right students, because if you're only going with Bangkok and then your school focusing more on undergraduate program, that may not be like the right market for you. So with that being said, I'm just going to move on to what we can do with the program level demand. So before we do that, I'm just going to show you like real quick of like the brief picture of what we can see on that. So on our tool, we have the filter called subjects and also subdiscipline. The way it works is that we have like subject as the main one. I think there are 14 of the main subjects, and then subdisciplines that go into that. So give you an easy example, if business and administrative study is the subject, subdiscipline would be something like finance, MBA, accounting, marketing, or like human resources. So that's how we look at the data. So I picked the top 5 subjects for undergraduate level and postgraduate level. from January 1st to November 25th of 2019 2020, just kind of like compare the trend from what happened last year and what happened this year. So for undergraduate level, we have health and medicine, applied and pure sciences, creative arts and design, engineering and technology, and the last one is social studies and communication. Almost the same thing go for graduate program where we have health and medicine, applied and pure sciences, business, engineering, and then followed by social studies and communication. So nothing surprising, and like I'm sure we learned about this from last time, or even like from our sense of what happening this year, that the search demand is going to decline from the previous year, which is fine. One thing that I want to point out, because Open Door has just come out anyway. So if you take a look at what happened in Open Doors data, which is the either new enrollment or like total in international student enrollment in the US, you start seeing the connection between Open Doors data and our data. So for example, engineering and technology, we see that there's a decline in both undergraduate and postgraduate level from the last year, especially like in undergrad level. If you take a look at the data from Open Doors, so engineering program has been declining since 2018 and 19. I think that was like negative 1%. So that's like a slight decline. But then for the most recent year, it declined by 4%. So if you combine Open Doors data and our data that usually indicate 1 to 2 years ahead of time before students making the decisions, you can expect that the trend for engineering enrollment will keep declining moving forward. So next one here is the 10 subdiscipline, like top 10 subdisciplines. So what I did here was that I just picked the subdisciplines that go into those subject areas, because it's nice to know that health and medicine is doing better than other areas, but not every school is going to have all those courses within health and medicine. So it's important for you to know like what goes into it and which one matters for your programs. Because if your school doesn't have anything to do with health and medicine, there's like no need to even take a look at that. So we can focus more on the actual subdiscipline or like program area rather than just looking at like the bigger picture, so that you can see like which one is like working for you. So for undergrad, we see more colors here, which is like color coded by the subject area, which is on the right hand side here. We see like more diversity within undergraduate programs. As we can see, we have like health medicine program, computer science, or even creative and arts, or architecture and like business and whatnot, compared to graduate program where majority of them is really looking for health and medicine. So this is important for you to know like which program you would like to focus on, which subject area, or even like which study level you would like to go forward, like seeing the demand is coming for this year. So the next one is an example that I would like to just walk you through using our demand tracker tool. So let's say if you a recruiter at your school, right? And you would like to promote computer science program for graduate students, but then you say that you want to diversify or just like, trying to find more students other than India, then what should you do? So given that example, I'm just going to switch my screen over to demand tracker tool real quick. Okay, so for those of you that have this tool, what we can do here, just keep in mind that we're trying to look for other countries that looking for computer science program for postgraduate, right? So what we can do here, we can go to the subject demand by market, and just keep in mind that I set the date from January 1st to November 30th of this year, and the destination country is the US. So I'm just going to click on this. Might take a second on loading since we have a lot of data. And then the next step that I'll do is I will select just the postgraduate level and then click apply. So now you can see that we have like the subject area on the left hand side and then country of origin reflecting like the trend on the left hand side here. But we want to look at computer science, right? So we're just gonna click on computer science here. And then on the right-hand side, it will just reflect what countries are looking for a computer science program. And if you want to go even one step further, you can click on like one of these sub-discipline to like, be really specific on what you're looking for. One thing to keep in mind, like the more detail you try to go, or like, more filters that you're applying to, the less data it will show, because it's getting like so specific. But it doesn't take away like the fact that you can see the trend, or like, the search demand from what you're looking for. So in this case, if we go back to our example, we want to look for computer science program for the postgraduate level. We want to remove ourselves from Indian students. So what else are our options? So we have students from Turkey, Brazil, Indonesia, China, Thailand, Russia, and so on. And you can see like the percent share of those students. You can even look at the volume by just moving your mouse over to like the orange bar, and it will give you the actual number of user, like unique user that's searching for that particular program over the course of like the time range that we have selected. So let's try to be like super specific about it. If I click on computer science program right here, doesn't change much, but yeah, like so we can see like some of the numbers have changed, and of course India is still number one, but now that you can see there are other options outside of India. If we want to be even more specific than that, we can go to the city level, where I'm going to select the city demand by subject, which is a fourth tab on our tool. So all the filters carry over from one dashboard to another. Like we already have it set up for computer science for postgrad. So now we can see these are the cities that, like they are interested in computer science programs. So we have like some from Turkey, majority of them still from India, which we try to remove ourselves from. You can even, if you really want to like remove India completely of the picture, one thing that you can do is that you can excluded them out from here. So by unselecting India up here, and then you can click apply. Oh, it's already like did that for me. So now that we're excluding India out of our search, so everything that's showing here would be just specifically on other other countries of origin outside of India. So it seems like Turkey is doing better than other cities. So yeah, that's an example of like what we can do in order to try to like help you with your recruitment goal and strategy. And if I can have David back here to join me with the last part, that'd be awesome. Hello. So yeah, I just give an example of that. And I know we talked about this before our call, where like back when everyone still can travel, and David said that he has a good example to share with all of us. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. So if David wanna walk us through that, then I can show you guys how to do it.
Yeah, for sure, Nutra. Thanks so much for taking us through that. I think maybe just to flip this slightly different than what we've looked at before is, I know as people are inundated with opportunities right now to do either virtual events or hopefully in the near future post-vaccine to be able to travel again. I always used to get the question, and even still do, about which are the right cities for my institution. Based on the study level and the programs that I have available. Could you walk us through how we might, or how someone could use this tool to identify the right countries if they've got a specific program that they're looking to recruit for, or if it's a study level they're trying to recruit for, the countries and or the cities? This also might be a really nice tool also, and just thinking about when we used to do some travel with IDP and some of our events. I know institutions used to oftentimes bring faculty members, and this is a really nice way for you to identify, perhaps maybe if you're going to ask faculty to join, you can back it up with some data to support why they should be tagging along or joining you on an event or some travel. So maybe you could just walk us through that quickly.
Sure. So let me clear out some of my my filter here. So I'm just going to go back to like both study levels. So there's a good example, like, for us to go through, because like David said, sometimes it's just really hard to try to predict like, where will be like the right place for you to go, or even like promote your school or the program that you're trying to like recruit students from. So let's say if you try to go in like specific country, like I just show you, if you know the program and you want to know like who's looking at this program, right? Try to do the other way around, where like, let's say if your territory is like Vietnam, for example, and you want to see like what students are even looking for Vietnam. So what you can do here is that you can we can just keep like being on the same dashboard here. But what we can do here is that you can just select the origin country. So rather than having it be like everything, we can just select Vietnam. So let me pull down here. So we're going to select Vietnam here as the origin country. And now we're just going to go back one step, because don't forget we're still stuck on the computer science. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on computer science to go back to like the whole list of subject areas that we have. So now we can see that in Vietnam, students are looking for business programs the most, followed by health and medicine, creative arts and design, and so on. And these are the cities that they are looking at. So just to be more specific on that, like let's say if you're trying to recruit for undergraduate program in Vietnam, you can change the study level just to focus on only undergraduate only. And then just click apply here and see if there's any change on that. So business is still like #1 here. And again, we can go to the even like the sub-discipline level by, like let's say if we click on the business one and then see what else like what's in business that drive the highest demand here. So for this one, not sure why it still show MBA, maybe like it doesn't really sing, but anyway, so yeah, you can take a look at the like within the business program, what comes up like, the highest, whether it's like business program, marketing, or like management. Because like for some school, not every school is going to have like all those programs. So if you try to promote like, specific program, it's good for you to know like which one has the highest demand in the given country that you're trying to go to, or even in city. Like for Vietnam, it's more obvious that Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang, they're like the main 3 cities, but it will be more useful for you to work like when you work with bigger country like India or even China, so it helps you like be more specific about that.
Yeah, that's great. And just the data will also redistribute appropriately. So if I was just specifically, for example, here in Nutra, interested in Ho Chi Minh City, I could just deselect everything else or remove them from the filter. Actually, I guess just click on it as well, and now it will redistribute based on just looking at Ho Chi Minh. If that was an opportunity that's presented to me, say for an in-person or a virtual event, I can now see just what we're seeing out of Ho Chi Minh City. So yeah, it's really nice. I'll also
right now, yeah, we're selecting just only Ho Chi Minh City, and you can see that the top subject areas kind of switch the order a little, where more students are more interested in health and medicine rather than just business program. But then if we take a look at just Hanoi and see if that's ever changing. Yeah, that's not, so now business is like on top, and then creative arts and design. So it kind of like show the shipment between one city to another and see like what's the most important for them, or like what they're looking for. So that way it will help you in time of like allocating your time and resources. And like David say, if there's a need to bring a faculty to go with you in those cities, then that would be like a nice tool to back you up on that.
Excellent. So before we jump into some questions, I know this is the last part of the mini series that we're running. Could you just, for an example in Nutra, quickly show how individuals can download some of this data or extract it out of the website?
Yeah. So
sorry, let me jump into some questions.
Yeah, no, like this is a good question, because you want to show this to your colleagues, or even like your supervisor and everyone. What you can do here is that you can click download here, and it gives you, I'm like on the admin one, so I have like more access, but usually it will be be available for you via image, PDF, or PowerPoint. And it usually asks you if you want the data on like your current screen, or you want like everything, so you can select that. They also ask you if you want it in portrait or landscape mode. It's like that specific. I would encourage you to just go with the landscape mode so that way you can capture everything. The filters carry over from one dashboard to another, just like I mentioned before. So just keep that in mind. And I think when you downloaded it, it will show you like what filters you have applied into that data. So when you present it to somebody else, they know like what you are trying to look for. Yeah, and that's like a really good tool because you can just hand it to someone and be like, hey, look at it yourself. Yep.
Yeah, it's so nice because I mean, oftentimes one of us would be using the dashboard, but then would need to present it to someone else. So knowing that
Right.
it can be downloaded or extracted into a really nice, clean format is certainly important. So excellent. Well, thanks so much, Anutra. Ellie, do you want to jump in and just see if there's any questions that have come in while we've been speaking?
Absolutely. Well, thank you both. Some really great data shared there. And one of the questions that came in is kind of related to the last question about how you export the data. This person says that this would be a really valuable tool to help us justify our recruitment travel plans to senior leaders at our institution. Are there any other ways to visualize the data, for example, on heat maps?
On heat maps, let's see which one we go to. So I can try to show you the subdiscipline one. This is the one that I haven't touched, but if you remember the tables from my presentation like earlier, this is where I got it from. So right now we just still on Vietnam, so let me unselect that. So let's say if you are interested in undergrad program in general and you want to see like what kind of subdisciplines or like what program would be good for them, on the right, left hand side here is the heat map that that person may be looking at. So this one will just show you like where to go in terms of like which users are interested in the undergraduate program. One thing to keep in mind, I know that the US keep popping up on here, and that refers to like when some students who are like in the country and they're looking for like further education. I usually just exclude that out of the origin country, like just exclude the US out of the picture, so that way I can actually focus on like who's actually coming in. So that was like one tip that I would highly recommend for you guys to do. But this is a heat map that you can do, and if you apply like more filter or even click on like let's say medicine for example, the heat map will also reflect what you're trying to look for. So just give it a second and then it will just load. Kind of look the same, but you can see the volume will change a little. Yeah. Oh, and also one thing to keep in mind for this dashboard, you can even group them based on the subject area too. You can see the color code here. And if you like really want to know what's going like social study and communication as a whole, you can just click on the social studies and communication on the right hand side. And then everything should reflect whatever goes under social studies and communication. And then the heat map also reflect the same thing.
That's very valuable.
Any other questions?
I think that is all of our questions for today. So thank you both. Thank you, Anutra and David, for running through this presentation. So this presentation will conclude our three-part mini-series on using our data to inform your spring recruitment and marketing activities. Following this presentation, you will receive the recording and also the slide deck as a follow-up. And with that, we will close. So thank you both again. Thank you for attending. Stay safe and healthy and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.